Tamara Calder Richardson is our speaker for today. She has a collection of credentials that are longer than I could speak this morning. If you check on her website, you'll be impressed. She's the most astonishing person with abilities beyond description. And I want to introduce Tamara. And I want to put you on, pin you so that everybody can see you most clearly. Go ahead, Tamara.
Dick, first of all, I want to thank you and also Virginia Beach Irons for having me here today. And hello, everyone. So I've been very excited about this because you're my people, and you thirst for this knowledge I call seeking heaven. So I've got I think it's beautiful, a beautiful PowerPoint presentation. And just to let you know kind of how it's going to go, what I was thinking about today, even if we have an hour for questions, I have so many things I could answer, because anywhere from the spiritual worlds, what happens, what do spirit people tell me, mediumship, past lives. There's so much that we could cover. I have really cool stories, and we'll see how much time we have, and then we'll have fun with it. So Dick, do you want me to go ahead and start? Pull up my presentation?
Go right ahead. Whatever you've prepared is what we're ready to receive.
Okay, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So if you could change that setting real quick, then I'll do that.
How about if I make you a co-host?
Yeah, that'll do it. That should do it. Okay.
Let's see if I can do that.
It should work.
Okay, go right up here. Go over here. Someone know how to do this better than I? Let's see, make you a co-host. I've got you up on the screen.
Okay, it says here host disabled participant from screen sharing. So
open participants.
I've got the participants.
Okay, click on her name.
I've clicked on her name.
There are 3 dots to the right.
Okay, I see those 3 dots.
Click on that, and it should give you the option to make her a co-host.
Okay, there it is. I tried that once, it didn't work. But your help, Chuck, helped me out. Here we go. Make Tamara the co-host, yes.
All right. Oh, it worked. It worked. Okay, great. All right. And ta-da. And can you see me? Do you see me like a little head in the bottom? Isn't that cool? My husband figured that out. I think it's a cool little thing where my head's down at the bottom, so you still see me. So that's kind of neat. That's in the advanced setting. So a little bit, I guess, I don't know, a little bit about me. I've had 6 near-death experiences, as well as I'm a multiple spiritually transformative experiencer. There's so much to cover, but this is why I have the PowerPoint to keep on track. As for me, I've not only have I had those experiences, but you'll begin to see through the PowerPoint presentation kind of what that after effects, what happened with my 6 near-death experiences, because you're definitely not normal after that. So I'll just bring it up currently. Currently, I speak such as this about my near-death experiences, my UFO experiences, my past lives, channeling. I channel Christ as well as ascended masters, such as Mother Mary, saints, angels, this kind of thing. As well as recently, I'm getting ultra-dimensionals. We'll talk about that and what that is and what I think that is. And as well as channeling, I do stage mediumship. I trained 8 years in the British style of mediumship with UK Tony Stockwell, and certified as an advanced psychic medium by Lisa Williams. But honestly, God certified me. I've been talking to him since 3 years old. I finally, later in life, decided to actually come out publicly with this. That is something that I really kind of try to keep hidden for some time. So that's a little bit about me. And then I have the Seeking Heaven channel, which Dick's been on, and he did it was really a nice interview. If you haven't seen that, there's other near-death experiencers, and I have other types of experiencers on there too, such as cryptids. You know, people have seen Bigfoot. I've never seen Bigfoot. I'll have to put that on the bucket list. So let's get started. All right, let's see. Let me make sure this thing's working here. Okie dokie. All right, let me see. I don't know why it's not working. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Maybe that's it. Give me just a second. Hold on just a minute. Let me figure out why this is not moving forward. Okay. This is not, this should be moving. And this instead made the background. So let me, yeah, I've got my tech person here, my husband. Yeah, it's not moving. Oh, I got to do it that way. Okay, that's okay. All right. So basically, great. This is what I just said. Basically, the 6 near-death experiences, my STs. We're going to be talking about today how that, my after effects, how that happened. It wasn't like I was seeking any of this. It's just, it became a part of me. And so the evidential mediumship, psychic knowing from early on as a very young child, because I had many of my near-death experiences in childhood, and then past and in between life recall, even off planets come up for years. I'm like, what do you do with that? And then evidential unconscious channeling. I can channel, I can trance channel, but I can also conscious channel, which we have time. I may do some of that. You know, we'll have fun today. I've been seeing ghosts since childhood. I've also seen demons. I I send them away. Luckily, I don't see them very often. And then holy angels, which are awesome. And then I've had some UFO encounters. A couple years ago, I saw a fleet of UFOs, and I'll talk about that. So, can everybody hear me pretty good? Yes.
If anything, you're speaking a little too fast.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good. Well, we got plenty of time. Thank you for that. Can you hear me clearly? Or
Yes,
do I need to go up some?
we're good.
Okay, I would just want to make sure because I know that you are, it feels like I'm a little low on the sound, and I would just want to make sure that
We have a volume control here.
you do? Okay. Okay, good. All right. Well, let's keep rocking and rolling, and we'll make it a little slow. So there's a lot to cover, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, my sound guy. Sorry, we'll just handle this really quickly. How do I get to my sound bar here with
Is it you have trouble hearing or trouble?
I think it needs to be up just a little bit louder, just a hair. It does, just a hair. Do I have to get out of that? If not, then if they think it's okay, I'll go with it.
It's okay here.
Okay on Zoom.
Okay, good. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, here we go. All right. So we're going to start. We're going to have fun. We're going to start slow. So I want to talk about my first near-death experience. And I didn't even know what it was. It came up in a regression that I had. And it was really intense, by the way. It was a very intense regression, and I didn't expect it. But I didn't even know there was anything called a prenatal near-death experience. But then, of course, with PMH Atwater's book, Forever Angels, she talks about the prenatal. And I do remember pre-life and also early being a soul. So this is my mom in the little hat. She's so cute. And I was born in 1963. So, you know, that gives you an idea of date, her, you know, the outfits. My grandparents, my grandmother has the hat on. My granddaddy's behind. You can see they look very disappointed. My mom is pregnant out of wedlock. They don't look too happy. And then that's my dad. And he was part Cherokee, like his parents behind him, they lived outside of the reservation. Their parents lived on the reservation. So I have the Cherokee thing going on. But she got pregnant in high school and had me when she went to college at Appalachian. She had to stop because she had me. So what I saw is that she was young. She was, back then it was, you didn't talk about being pregnant if you weren't married. It just was very taboo. Things have changed, but back then it wasn't so good. So she was in a lot of trauma and upset. And what happened is that she was, I'm going to be polite about this because my mother's still living. She had a situation where there was a lot of blood in the tub. And I, as a spirit, I stepped outside of that and saw what was going on. I saw her crying. She was afraid of her mother, my grandmother, even though she was awesome to me and we were really close. She could be tough. I mean, she ruled with an iron fist. And my mom was frightened and she didn't want to be in this situation. And so her sister came in the bathroom and said, "Oh my gosh, we got to clean this up. I'll be with you always. We're going to help you raise this child." And my aunt and uncle, which they were together at that time in college at App, they did help support and just emotionally, if anything. So I saw the situation. I even saw, this is kind of what the bathroom looked like. And I saw myself outside this bathroom window looking outside. And all I felt was just an intense love. And I just wanted to nurture, but I was not even a human yet, or I was a little zygote, whatever I was. But I was a soul and I was following her. So I just had the feeling of, how much care. And I also remember following her a year beforehand and picking out parents. And I remember I followed her because she was really cute. And she had this little pin she used to wear in a sweater. And I would follow her. And my mom is such a, I say a fairy. She acts like she giggles all the time. She likes to make jokes. She likes to dance when we go to stores. So she likes, especially like Hobby Lobby, she'll just pick up something and start dancing. And so she's just always a very light spirit. And so I just, following her before I decided her to be my mother, I kind of got to know her. So I do remember all of that. And also her having me in the back seat of a car. I followed her. So we do follow and pick out our parents for better or worse. All right. So that's me. I guess 2 years old. Have I changed? I don't know, maybe a little bit. Okay. So age 3. So this is when at age 3, which the first one was a puncture wound too, and I'll leave it at that. This one was also a puncture wound to the head, which I always make a joke. I don't know how funny it is, but if you want to connect with the divine, one way to connect with your crown chakra, if you have something to the head injury, it definitely connects you pretty quickly. So
just a minute.
Yeah.
We were off the air for about 2 minutes. I don't know what you said during that 2 minutes, but we're back on.
Oh, okay. So where did I leave off? But the slide before? Here?
There.
There?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
so.
What was the last thing I said? Because I don't want to repeat myself for people watching.
About the bathroom, blood in the bathroom.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, great. So, anyhow, there was a lot of blood in the bathroom. My aunt, my mom's sister came in and she goes, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And she goes, "I can't carry this baby, blah, 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 blah." And my aunt's like, "No, we got to clean this up. We don't want mother to find out. And I'll be with you. This is going to be great. This is a blessing from God. You're going to do this." So I am watching everything as a spirit because, I'm very early on as I guess you would say I haven't been formed yet. I was forming but I was a spirit. And I remember being in that bathroom, which looks similar to this, and being outside of the window, looking outside in the grass and what everything looked like. And then looking at her and feeling I could merge with her emotions and feeling. And I just felt so bad for her because she had so much lack of love for herself. And it made me so sad. I actually had no feelings toward myself, right? It was all her. And so I had picked her out a year before as a spirit person and followed her around. So spirit people aren't all bad. Okay. This is the movies and I'll make it all bad. It's not. We're spirit people. And most of our time is spent in spirit. We only have a body for a short time. So I followed her around. I thought she was really delightful and really cute. And she still is. She laughs a lot. She's real silly acting. She likes to dance around. But then I also like my grandmother because she was a business owner. My granddaddy was really sweet. And so they had a big family. So I picked this family. We do pick our family for better or worse. But I think that's done before in the heavenly realms, that's done in the etheric realms. And then we kind of, and then we have choices. And this is one of the ones on my plate. So I just felt a sense of love for her, and that's all. It was just deep love. And I just I couldn't hug her, because I didn't have a body, but that's how I felt. So that's me around 2 years old. I have like a little puppy dog or something on my shirt. Okay. And then, and yes, my hair is naturally curly. Anyway, so my near-death experience number 2, I was 3 years old, and I was a little over 3, and I was playing in this antebellum home. And this was in Hickory, North Carolina. Actually, I think this was in Newton, but anyway, right beside Hickory. And so I have a cousin. My mom had several brothers. She had 4 brothers and 1 sister. So it was a big family. It was 6 in her family. And we were visiting my mom's brother's mother-in-law. Try to figure that out. So it was him, his wife, and they had a child. They ended up having a couple kids, but at the time, 1 child. And I was playing hide and seek. She was around my age. And as kids do, they count. And I ran up the stairs, which is kind of like you'd expect in the middle, like Gone with the Wind. And I ran up the stairs, and I'm squealing, trying to find a place to hide. And I'm in this bedroom, and it's got a bathroom there. And as I'm jumping up and down, and I'm hearing her count softly below, I'm jumping, and I hit my head on a dresser, and it punctures the top. It was a nail that was hammered underneath. I don't know what it was doing there. It was a nice house. I have no idea. I can't answer why it was there, but it was hammered underneath. And when I jumped, it pierced through my skull, and I felt my head. I thought it was like a water glass that fell down, but it was blood. I mean, I just couldn't put that together that quick. And then I passed out. And then once I did that, I was out of my body watching, because I guess it hurt. I don't like pain. So I'm kind of a chicken. If there's any pain involved, if it's too intense, I'm out of there. So I'm looking at this situation that's going on, and I'm not feeling the pain because I'm outside of my body now, but I am seeing the perceptions of the room. She comes up, the other little girl, my cousin, and she starts screaming for the adults. I hear that rustling, them come up. I'm unconscious at this point. They're trying to help me. Then they bring my mom up, and she doesn't know what to do. And she goes, "Oh, she'll be fine." I'm not sure what she did. She didn't know. She was a young mom. She had no idea. And so I'm watching this whole scene. And as I do, the room is starting to be filled up. I can see, first of all, I can see the room I'm in, which is in that bedroom, but I can also see outside, inside the house, and pretty much so everywhere by thought. And then I began to see, because now my spirit is downstairs at the end of that stairway, because I'm following the voices and what's going somewhere upstairs, somewhere downstairs. And I'm seeing on that stairwell just tons of spirit people, and they kind of look like this. They were beings of light. So I'm looking at this in a different light spectrum, right? Because I don't have my eyeballs, I have my spirit eye. So I'm looking at it in a different spectrum. This is kind of what they look like. And there were several filling up, and I felt as though they were friendly. They were there for support and help. And like I said, I could see in all directions. And at this point, I came back to my body, and this is where I saw this beautiful 9-foot angel above my head. And it didn't really look like this female like this. I felt like it was, if I had to say, it was feminine, but it was also strong. It felt as though it was an angel. It was at least 9 feet. It was not as distinct as the features of this, but it felt holy. It had an orange cast to it and gold. As I went through life, I knew this. I was told Uriel, never knew till much later in life that was an archangel, meaning the fire of God. And so hands went over my head, and now I know they were trying to heal my head. And so when I got up, my grandparents, they called my grandparents. They came in, took me to an internist. He said I had a contusion and that they had to watch my head for 24 hours to make sure there's no swelling. And so my grandmother was right there. She was like all over it, and she was making sure that I was fine. And I did have a hole in my head 2 years because, I mean, they can't, that has to heal naturally. So when I came back, so I'm seeing the hands, I heard, this is not your time. You have much to do. Then I was back in my body. It really hurt when I had to go back, and I had a lot of confusion. This, like I said, this concussion, and then I had this small hole in my head. It just had to grow back naturally. But since then, when that happened, I saw spirit people like all the time. Like I couldn't control not seeing them. And so I think what's going on there is that the veil was lifted, because I think spirit people, honestly, everywhere I go, they're everywhere. The grocery store, everywhere. They're at the tanning salon. I had to clear a bunch of stuff at the tanning salon. I'm like, would you want eternity at Palm Beach Tan? I don't think so. So they're literally everywhere. Why? Not all of them are lost. Some of them they have different reasons. They are multidimensional. All right. So age 4, this is my third near-death experience. And this is when I had a car crash. Now, this is my mom. She's older now. So she's, what is it? She's 19, 20, 22, she's about 23. And then this is, this guy in the middle, who is a Pontiac. This is the actual car I was in the accident with. And that she had to have that man. She was brought up in this small town, Hickory, North Carolina. And then this guy comes in, and he was a DJ in a flashy dresser. So she had her heart set on this guy. So you can see here, this is his home in Rockingham. That's the car. This is the event. Let me make sure I don't get ahead of myself. Okay. So this is where she wanted me to meet him and go on a date. During this time, it happened to be winter. It was really bad weather. It had snowed. It had frozen on the ground. So we call it black ice. And so my grandmother's like, please don't go, pick another day. But my mom is so hard-headed. She is still hard-headed. And she's like, no, we're going to go. So we went, and I remember they used to have a back door, this old antebellum house my grandparents had, not the same house that you saw before. That was someone else's house. And not everybody from the house, from the South, has those big houses. That's just happened to be a coincidence. But my grandparents had like a Victorian house, white. And so the back of the stairs is really the main entrance. And so he pulled up in the car, and we got out and walked down. Now to this day, I'm like, why didn't he go up to the door and get her? So I didn't understand that. It's not very polite. But we went to go eat at Pizza Hut. And then afterwards went to Baskin Robbins. This is an old Baskin Robbins picture, but it was a Pizza Hut with an actual roof. They used to make these roofs like that, and that's how you knew they're Pizza Hut. So we ate there. And then afterwards, we went to, he had a radio station that he worked at. He was a DJ and an editorial writer. And so this is Channel 1. This is where he used to work. And so that's his desk. And so he said, look at the shades there. That's his glasses. Anyway, so I have a pair like that now. Anyhow, he said, I need to talk. At the time, they were dating. I needed to talk. We need to talk. My mom said, I need to talk. We need to talk for a minute. Him and Ray, who's down below. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there he is. Okay. And so they put me in a room. He said, you can have any albums you want or what have you. So I picked some Motown ones that, was a kid. So I love Davy Jones. You can see I got it all signed. I got rid of that album. Now albums are back. But yeah, so while I was doing that, while they were doing that. Okay. So let me make sure I'm on track here. So while that happened, they come out of the room about an hour, 15 minutes later, an hour and a half, and arguing. And she wanted to get married. He didn't want to get married. They were in an argument. So he said, let's go. So we get in the car. I'm in that Pontiac that I just showed you, that one right there. And it had those long seats, and it had no car seat. So I think it was on purpose. I'm absolutely positive he did this on purpose because it's immaturity, but he put the brakes on, it spun around, and then it hit a tree. And it was this, if you want to call it a park, it's just like a little parkish area, you know, with plants and so forth there, kind of in the middle of town, attractive. And it hit a large oak tree, and it hit it on the driver's side. And so what happened is I went up through the windshield. It was a big windshield. And soon as I had impact, I was out of there. Like and it comes through all the time in medium stuff. And I do want to say this, I've worked, I mean, a murder cases and things that just have sent my way sometimes. I mean, it's not a thing that I do all the time. And it's come up in readings, different things. And the question is there pain when they die? When you are out, there is no pain. I felt nothing. Okay. The impact, I was out, meaning out of my body. Okay. So, what happened was it shattered my face, and it shattered my nose. And actually I had to have 2 surgeries later as an adult to remove cartilage. Still have some sinus issues with that, not to blame it all on that, but God's good, because I mean, I look fine, you know, God's amazing. Not that I'm perfect every way. I've got horrible scoliosis, and I would think it was also to my development. Some of this stuff really affected my spine, but overall, I'm very grateful. So, when it forced me out, all I knew at that point, I was very confused. Like, I didn't know where I was. I was in a place of all blackness. So naturally, if you're here and then boom, it's all black, I was still conscious, just like I am now, no difference. But I was confused because I'm like, where am I? And I felt, it's weird because I didn't have a body in this state, but I felt wet and cold. Don't know what that means, just saying that's what I felt. And then it was all blackness, but then things started forming into a tunnel. I think it's not a tunnel. I think it's a portal, right? It's a portal opening up. And so, but it felt like a tunnel. Now, actually not that many people experience tunnel. I know there's a lot of jokes on tunnels and NDEers, but really it's like 30% of the people. It's not a lot. So I did see that, and it felt, it was forming around me, and I saw a pinhole of light. And when I saw a pinhole of light, I saw Jesus, and he was in the background. At first, I wasn't sure who it was, but as he came closer, I knew. And he did have the marks in his hands. People asked me, I'm like, I don't know why. Maybe it's for identification. I'm not really sure, but he did. And as far as religious upbringing, my grandmother loved Jesus, but you got to figure I'm really young. So I'm 4 years old. So I don't know a lot about religion or anything like that, but I knew it was him. And he had family member behind him, standing behind him. And he's kept moving toward me. Like, it's really like he's floating toward me with his hands out. And he has family behind, family I've never met, yet I knew they were family. Like, I just knew it. And so in this state, I think you just know certain things. And then it was like a few months before I had, there was an egg of a bird, which I thought was a ball. So I threw it because I'm a child, you know, to bounce it. And then I was like, what's that? And someone said, it's a bird in there. And I was devastated for months that I killed a bird because I didn't know better. And I was just so distraught over that. So there was someone behind him, a family member, says, we have your bird. He's okay. So that was just meant so much to me. So anyway, Jesus said that I had to go back, but he was really serious. He goes, you have to go back. He said, but I'll always be with you. And I'm like, and when he says that, like, I'm back. So instantly I went from that world to another world. So as I came back, I'm not really fully in my body. I'm kind of by location. I'm not fully in my body. I'm also outside the body, but I'm also aware of the body. I'm slightly in the body, but I'm also outside. I know it's complicated, but it's by location. And what I saw in front where that park was, I saw there was a scene going on, a spiritual scene I'll talk about in a minute. And then to the left of me behind, there was an old fire station. Of course, everything's closed because the weather was bad. Really, no one should have been out. But I saw all these spirit people, like 200-300 standing around, and they had different time period outfits on. And the firemen had old timey fire outfits on. And I think they were there because they were concerned. I mean, I didn't feel any malice at all. I think it was all out of love. And then this woman sticks her head. In the meantime, what's going on is that we're stuck in that tree. Some guys, some good old boys, try to help get on that front driver tire out of the tree. So I'm just observing all this. I'm not speaking, I'm observing. And this woman sticks her head in the driver's side, and she looked like this. And she goes, "Hi, I'm Judith." No one else could see her. "I'm Judith Hefner. Your grandmother knew my mom, and she used to go to her jewelry store." I'm telling you. And I was like, and I'm just, watching everything. Everything's by telepathy, mind to mind thought, full conversations. And then I heard these whispers saying she's the one who carries her voice. So it was more like layered voices. She's the one who carries her voice. It was like that. Of course, I didn't know what they were talking about at all. It took years later to find out what that meant. And years later to accept that I could see spirit people all the time. And so behind the seat, I had 3 people, and one of them was named Catherine. She was around 12. I was like, I don't know who she was. It was many years later as an adult that I realized that that was my grandmother's sister that died of TB, tuberculosis. So that was kind of interesting. Now on the right side, this is a lot going on. On the right side, I see this rip. The only in time, it was like a funnel going up to the heavens. This is the best I can explain it. Heavens, and it looked like fire, but it wasn't scary. It looked like some God stuff. It looked like life itself. And the closest that I found to what it looks like is David Ditchfield's painting he did in Shine On. I was like, that's it. The one that the fellow that, had the train accident with the arm and all that. Now he's a painter. And so he, beautiful divine music too. So that's what I saw. And then Uriel was standing beside Blazing. And so then, so I was caught really between these dimensions of being by location. Now in front of me, remember I said I saw a spirit scene? I saw into various time periods. What I saw, and I'll just tell you what I saw. What does it mean? That's up for interpretation. But what I saw was and again, remember, it just snowed. We're the foothills of the mountains. It's icy everywhere, so no one should be there. But I saw Native Americans cooking, and there was a female and male, and she was holding a baby, and they had a fish over a fire. Then I saw a Gibson girl, that style with a little waist, long skirt, and the button-up blouses to here. The 1890s look, and they're walking. Is a man. The man with her had like those campaign looking hats, corncob hats, whatever you call it, and he a pinstripe type suit. They were walking through this frozen park, this small forest, right? And then above there was a hot air balloon. So what's going on there? Am I seeing into dimensions? Are they happening at one? Is this something happening at, that, we hear there's no time. So are these different dimensions of tapping in that's happening at once? Or could it be that I'm tapping into memories, like a faded memory that I'm seeing a repeat? I can't really answer that, but it does really make you realize that when there is no time, then that would literally mean there is no time, which is kind of big. It's kind of hard to imagine. So this Wagoneer, let me move my head. Chair. I don't know if you can see it. It's like a Jeep Wagoneer. Let me see if you can, let me go this way. Okay, there you go. That was what came that was helping the car and pull the car out. They had a chain with the tire. It was wrapped around to move it out, and they did help with that. So let me finish that story. Okay, so it's a parlay before this. So basically they took me back up to the radio channel station, which was like not even a mile away, looked at my nose, which was bleeding and busted up, did not take me to the doctor. Instead, my mom decided that's the day she's going to run away from home with me. So we moved to his trailer, I went from a 10,000 square foot house to a tiny little yucky trailer and ate hot dogs all the time. So that was not a good situation for me. And then it wasn't till, and I'll go ahead and add this in here. It wasn't till when I'm in that trailer, I started, and this is the next slide. I guess it's a good parlay. I started getting sexual abuse. This is much later, obviously, but I'm telling you, what 11-year-old wears a negligee? That's not normal. Okay. That's not normal. Yeah. And so it started around 3.5. And that was at that trailer when they took me back, and it wasn't immediate, but she would leave me alone to go working, my mom, a temp job, like secretarial, and with him. And then it started, but it was more pervy pedophile stuff. And I mean, obviously, because the age, I was like 3.5, but I didn't really know what it was or describe it, but I didn't want to be there. So what I did is I had this little closet room. They put me into sleep. It was very weird. And I didn't know how to use a telephone or anything. I'm very small at this point, 3.5. So there was this commercial going on TV. I really need to find this commercial, but it was Valleydale sausage. And it was, ooh, 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 Valleydale, hooray for Valleydale, hooray for Valleydale. And there was little cartoon characters and little animals, little cartoons, and they would march, and it was really happy. And so I visualized that these were my friends, and I would lay in the bed at night and I said, they're going to show me how to get out of here. And they did. So obviously it was a lot more happening than those little imagination friends, because I picked up the phone the next day. Even my aunt's like, how did you know how to do that? And this is where supernatural gifts started kicking in big time. Because there's no answer to this. So I picked up a phone, which I had never used, and I dialed directly the direct number of my grandparents. I was told that, which I didn't know that. Now, they weren't as long as they were now. That's really dating me, but they weren't. But still, they didn't have the area code. But I called, and then I told them 25 minutes away, every street per street, exactly how to get there, because I remote viewed it. I wanted to get the heck out of there. And so they did show up, and they did try to adopt me, but she ended up marrying him, and the abuse went on. So, this is one thing that, again, PMH Atwater's book, Forever Angels, you'll get with childhood near-death experiences, you'll get with the trauma, you'll get neglect and abuse. And that's what I got at it. Not only physical abuse, but I was told I'll never be anything. No one will listen to me. No one will believe me. All that stuff that comes with it. All right. So now this is the big one. And this is, I say my favorite one, because I get to meet Jesus. So how wonderful is that? So this is me. I'm getting ready to start first grade. We moved from my safe zone of Hickory, where my grandparents are looking out for me, because they never liked the guy she married, the stepdad, who's now passed, because he was a player. He he was known for that. So they didn't trust him. They didn't like him. And so when we moved 3.5 hours away, I was out of my safety zone. So the abuse started getting worse. And I had a conversation with God. And it's funny, because recently, and especially not just all women, but particularly women that are listening, this thing with sexual abuse is very common, unfortunately. And I, just talked to a couple NDers lately, and they're afraid. Some of them are afraid to talk about it. Now, I don't believe in triggering people, but just admitting that it happened is what I'm talking about. And it's not okay. And I feel sorry for anyone that is demented enough to do that. And so that's my little comment on that. And even, later in life now, I mean, there are times that I still have to work through things. And I was there on my stepdad's deathbed, helping him and praying for him. And I was telling God, can you figure? But what happened here is, when we moved and we're in this new apartment complex, it was right around the time of the Sharon Tate murders and all that. I don't know if everyone remembers all that, but people were nervous about going out, and all that. And so this is going on with the sexual abuse. I didn't really know what it was or what to say. I just didn't want it. So I had a conversation with God, and I said, I can't do this. So I want you to kill him. But I didn't know that was bad. And then I kind of got, oh, that, I don't know. I'm thinking that I don't think God likes that. So I said, okay, then just take me. And that's what happened. I said, I can't do this anymore. So it started out with strep throat. And by the second day, it got worse. My fever, it was into the third day that it was an 103.9, going very quickly. And so I was in the bed. My mom was putting me to bed. I couldn't eat. I haven't been able to eat. She tried to get me to eat tomato soup, cheese toast, and she sent my stepdad, who was going through adoption with me, which I didn't like that, to get some milk and chocolate ice cream or something to make a milkshake so I could drink that, which I'm lactose intolerant. But anyway, so I didn't drink anything. What was happening is my lungs were shutting down. And so the strep throat continued. They didn't take me to the doctor. And she goes, the thing was, they don't have the money, which is ridiculous because my grandparents have plenty of money. They would have paid for it. No big deal. So, and that's not what you think about when your child's in danger. And so it progressed. She called the hospital. They didn't have these emergency centers like they do now. She called the hospital, and I remember the name because of the name. It's Rex Hospital, like T-Rex. So I'm a kid, so I remembered it because it's a dinosaur. And so anyhow, they said, put me in a tub of ice. Well, I'm freezing, even though my fever is now 104, it's going up, but I have to go in this tub of ice, which that stuck out in my mind still. That was awful because when you're freezing, you don't want to be in a tub of ice. So then she tried to cool me down. She put me in the bed, and an hour later, I was drenched, soaking wet. So she went back to my stepfather and said, we got to take her. That's it. So what's going on at this time? That was the exact night that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. So you're not supposed to be on the road. We had martial law. They had stops. You couldn't just go out. And after 10, you can't go out. So now it's like 10:30. So they leave, and it's quite a trip to the hospital. And as they're going to the hospital, I'm losing consciousness. And what happens is I just slip away. I mean, I hate to say this, but when you have pneumonia, in some ways it's peaceful because you just sort of slip away. I mean, it's sort of like when you're sleeping, you just kind of, I mean, not to promote it, but you just sort of slip away. There's not much you can do about that. So I was slipping away, and then I saw myself above the car about maybe 200 feet. And I'm seeing the riots in the background that's going on because there were riots. We were in the South, and there were riots, and we finally get to, and I'm coming back in my body and going back up. So I'm kind of hopping in and out. And then we go to a stand where there's a military guard, and he says, what are you doing here? And she goes, oh, my daughter, which not really daughter at that point, but my daughter needs to go to hospital. So they did call up ahead different stations. So we were just waved through. They even called the hospital for us. So the hospital, when we finally get there, we had several people waiting to get me. So you can see, I found these pictures of Rex Hospital. And this is the old hospital. They've now rebuilt it and put a newer one kind of down the street. I don't know what they did with this area, but this is what it looked like at that time. And so what happened is when I got to the hospital, I had died on the way. So I was popping in and out. But they clocked me in dead on arrival of 15 minutes. And I remember when that happened, my mom started cussing. My stepdad, she's like, how dare you let him die? FFF, whatever. It was awful. Okay. She's crying. I'm just observing. Really not a lot of emotion. I'm in this observing format. It's interesting how we're really connected to our bodies and we're very emotional. But the minute we're outside of it, we're like, I'm just going to look at things. All right. So they worked on me 2 hours to try to get my vitals. It went on back and forth. I would flatline. So gosh, I don't know how many times that happened, but they were trying to suck, it looked like goop out of my lungs. And they had this like little squishy compressor thingy that was pumping it out. And they were saying so many cc's, and they were trying to give me stuff. anyway, I got kind of bored with that and grossed out with that. And so I was in the room watching them as spirit. And then I decided to go through to the hospital and zoom around and see what's going on. And then I saw a lady giving birth and she almost died. And I was like, you need to be there for your daughter. And then I saw a man, he needed water and no one was getting him water. So I pushed the water off of the thing so they would come get him water. And then I went up to, I remember a vending machine, they had Lance crackers because, that used to be an account later when I'm at ad agency. It's kind of interesting. Never thought about that. But the Lance snack crackers, yeah, they used to be an account for years. I did their annual report. But anyway, designed it and all that. But there was a vending machine with that. And there was a little girl there. She was a little, African-American girl, had a little brownie outfit. She could see me. But then I would go back and check on my body. And so finally, when I came back, the nurses were crying. There were 2 male doctors and there was about 4 to 6 that would kind of float. I don't know. They were getting stuff. So it was between 4 to 6 as they come in and out of the room. And one of the doctors said, I have a little girl her age. And they were crying and they covered me with a sheet. Now that for some reason, years later, I remember the sheet and I was like, oh, that bothered me. That's kind of final, right? So my lungs had collapsed, but a medical tech that was there saw some movement. And so there was a slight pulse that was coming back. So they put me in an induced coma for 3 days, which is where I hung out with Jesus. But I do want to mention in the room before all this happened, the transition of my spirit from this world and from a hospital room, right? The hospital room and the covering of the sheet. There was a nun and a priest, which I'm not Catholic. We didn't really know anything about Catholic. We're from the South, a lot of Protestants here, not saying there's not some Catholics. I have a lot of Catholic friends, nothing against Catholicism. I just didn't know what I wasn't really familiar, but I knew enough. Oh, that's a nun from the Flying Nun. I knew that. And they had rosaries but they were spirit people. And they said, blessed are the innocent. And I thought, who are they talking about? They're talking about me. And so they were praying over me. And I'm thinking, what a beautiful thought that in life that their role was to help probably children. And here they are still helping like little angels. And I thought that was, looking back on it, how beautiful. And I did find out later Rex Hospital was a Catholic hospital, which is kind of cool. So as that happened, next thing I know, immediately the scene changed. And I'm in this place that looks like paradise. Like I have no control. This is just all happening. And I look down and I have a body, but not like this body I have here. But it was a body. It was just not the same properties, if I could say it like that. And then holding my hand, I looked down below was a man kneeling, holding my right hand, and he was smiling. He was very glowy. He had a lot of white light coming out of him, out of his source. He was brilliant. He was Slav, and it was Jesus. I mean, there's no doubt, 100,000%. There's no doubt. And he smiled. He was smiling so big. And I said, you're that man I talked to. Because my grandmother said, if you got any problems, talk to Jesus, which I talked to him about the abuse. And let me tell you what, Jesus really shows favor to people that have had trauma or childhood trauma. That's what my experience has been, because he really loves protecting the little children. I mean, he loves everybody, but he said, I am. And he said, I have something to give you. And so I'm a child. I'm 5. So I'm thinking it's a toy. And I said, a toy? And he said, no. And he thought that was funny. And I love to see him laugh. And then you never get to see pictures of him laughing, but he laughs. He's got a great sense of humor. He's just wonderful. And so he said, no. And he pulled something off his rope belt. And he said, I wrap you in my love, protection, and wisdom. Much is given, much you'll give. Through the big things, the small things would be done. And let me say that again. Through the big things, the small things would be done. Through the small things, big things would be acknowledged. So he said, I had to go back and I argued a lot. To the left of me was a roundabout with children playing on it because it was a grass. There was grass, there was a roundabout, and there was a tree in the distance to the right. And I said, they're here. Why can't I stay? And he said, no, you can't. It's not your time. And I really argued with him, like, no, but why not? This is great. I'm fine. He goes, well, your mother needs you. And I said, no, she'll be fine. And he goes, no, she won't be fine. You've got more love in you than she has for herself. And I'm like, she'll be okay. And he said, let's take a walk. So he kind of put that to the side. So we started walking. And as we walked, the reason I have these flowers here and the colors were amazing is that these flowers that were there, the flowers, the grass, the clouds, the tree leaves, everything followed him. Like it moved with him and almost had a whisper like, like admiration, and was following him. Cause I was looking like, isn't this odd that everything's following him? Because I remember thinking that. He said, let's sit by this tree. So now I believe that is what we would consider a tree of life, but it's a tree I've never seen. It was a big tree. It kind of looked like dogwood or cherry blossoms, like a flower type on it. And then it had these not big, but medium-sized red grapes. And he says, we don't eat from this. I'm thinking, I'm not thinking about food right now. And so he said, this tree's wise. And I said, okay, okay. Why are you telling me this? And so he said, let's sit here. There's a big rock in front of it. I was too short to sit on the rock. So he kneeled and sat on the rock, and I kind of stood beside of him. And he began to answer things, anything I wanted to know. So I'm a child. So I asked things like, how's energy form? Why do we have electricity? Why do we have thunder? I might have asked about the dinosaurs, things like that. And then I just sort of ran out because I didn't really know what to ask. So he began to tell me things. And he said that we manifest. He didn't use the word manifest. He said we create, in heaven very quickly. He said, but we're on earth, on the earth plane where you're from and others that it takes a long time. So we do it through our thoughts, and then we speak it forth. So we have to be very mindful what we say and what we think, because we're creating it as we're doing it. And we want to make sure it's positive. And I said, well, I want to go back to that thing you're saying, how quick it is here. Can we try it? And he's like, okay. So I thought of us being in a little boat, and we were in a little boat, and we were in a little teeny stream, and he was on one and I was on the other. It was a little boat. And then he had 3 fish swim up to him. He picked one up, and then he kind of said hello to the fish, put it back. He goes, that's how we fish here. And then we were back at the tree. So it was just a quick example. So he told me I had to go back, and he said that he would always be with me. I don't know how long the time with him was. We actually, one point, I swam in a stream, and he had his feet in the water. And I remember it was a very shallow stream, but I could breathe in the water. So I know that's kind of odd, but I could breathe, and it wasn't water. It was kind of like this flowy essence thing, kind of sparkly, but we would know it as water, but it wasn't like water as we know it where you drown, but I could breathe. And I was just being playful, and we were just talking. So I remember we just talked and spent time together. And I told him I didn't want to be around, I didn't say abuse, but around all that. He knew what I was talking about. And he said that things would get better. He did say he was going to send me one person. He said, I'm going to send you someone to help you with this life. And later on, it was when I was 19, I met my husband, which I've been with 40 years, and he's wonderful. He's like my protector. He's makes sure that I eat. Are you okay? Do you need sleep? They're negative. You need to stay away from them. Like he's always like, I didn't have that. So he's always looking out for me, which is really important to someone who's been through trauma. You want to feel safe. So he makes me feel really safe. So it was him. I didn't know that at the time. And he's one of the most loving people that I know. So he did tell me some things that I want to share with what Jesus did say. He does like to dance. Sometimes he'll show up to me dancing, especially if he wants to kind of pick your emotions up and so forth. He has done that in the past. He hasn't done that recently, but he's done that in the past. But he told me that understanding comes from suffering. I mean, if we kind of live forever, then I guess, we have to learn some way. He said it purifies the soul to grow and to be able to serve God and others more compassionately. He also told me that he had something to give me, and that's when he gave me, he said that I have the light of God shining through me as an example of his power and will. And I believe that's available to every single person. And then that's when he told me about, and I think it was also like, don't ever underestimate the small things you do in life or for people. And I think we need to remember that. We just need to trust that we have a divine purpose, and every little thing that doesn't seem to matter, we don't know if it matters or not. Only God knows that. And then Jesus talked about how people create in heaven and how we can do the same on earth, but we've just forgotten. And to me, that's amazing just to know that. So like people would say, oh, I would just die if that happened. I don't use words like that anymore. Or, oh, I'm so-and-so, it makes me sick. Erase it. Don't say it. Don't make yourself sick. Because he told me right from Jesus, that's what he said. Be careful what you say, which can work the other way. I'm filled with abundance. I'm filled with people that love me. I'm filled with perfect health. So Jesus said that he wanted my help because I went back and arguing like I didn't want to leave. I mean, I'm with him. He's wonderful. His love is intoxicating. I wanted nothing. I didn't want one thing. I didn't want my old life. I didn't want anything. I just wanted to be with him. It's just intoxicating. I can't explain it. It's euphoric. So Jesus he said he wanted me to help bring heaven to earth. Now, I said, it seems like a lot of work. I just don't think I can do all that. I'm still the same way to him. I'm like, I don't know. And he told me I was not alone in doing this task. And he's right, because there's many people that I'm sure all of you are doing the same thing. So I am not alone in this task. He told me that to speak of heaven and show its wonders to let people know it's real. He also said that people are going to be doing this in different ways, and they're going to be bringing God's love through to others in different ways. I kept saying, I don't know if this is gonna. I wasn't convinced that I would make a difference, and I'm fine where I am. But he said, no, that we all make a difference. He says, I know these things. I was okay. So finally, I have to agree, because you kind of have to agree, free will. But he said that people have forgotten to laugh, and he said I can help with that. And I thought when I was a kid, why have people forgotten to laugh? Like, do they have a disease? Like, I didn't know. But then I thought, oh, I think I can help with that. He said that when people laugh, their guard is let down and their hearts open and they're ready to receive, which makes sense. And he said, I can make them laugh, which, I like that. I like making people laugh. I like seeing them smile. So finally, he said to be love, receive love, and give love, for in the end, that is all there ever was. And that's why we're here. So this is a quick one. This is my drowning in Myrtle Beach. And this is where I was playing volleyball in a pool, in the hotel pool. And some guys were playing volleyball, and I was swimming around and I was under their feet. They didn't know I was there. And so I got hung up and I panicked because I couldn't get out. And I started swallowing water. And then I saw the horizon underneath in the pool open up like light, like it started opening up like light there. And then I started hearing a multitude of angelic choir. And I thought, oh no, not again. That's what I thought. Oh no, not again. And then I woke up, and I was, spitting out, chucking the water up. And I had a lifeguard, I guess, that was, reviving me. And so I was a bit dazed from that. Now, each time that I have a near-death experience, I gain more spiritual abilities that come out with this, because the layers of things that are, as we see reality, are gone. So when I was 33, I had a reaction to a pill. It was a menstrual migraine pill. Had a reaction. And I was supposed to take it before night. And then I tried a couple times. I think it was the second week I took one, and that was it. I was like, this doesn't feel right. So if you feel like something doesn't feel right, don't do it. So I took this pill, and I woke up like bells went off, and I couldn't move my motor skills. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move my motor skills. It was like, oh my gosh. And so it was like Frankenstein, like he's alive. So I don't know how I did that, but I just got up. I couldn't tell my husband anything because I couldn't think and I couldn't move my hands right. So somehow I went straight up and I went into the living room thinking, I just took one pill. This is ridiculous. So, diagnosed by an MD. This is ridiculous. So I'm sitting there, I turn on the TV thinking if I could follow the train of consciousness on TV, I would wake up. This is obviously not that serious. But what happened is I started not knowing I was male or female or my name. I was like, this can't be good. And then I started feeling very frightened, which I know what happens after that. Total peace. So I knew that I am, but that's all I knew. Then I saw the furniture in my living room start turning into white lines. And I was like, okay, this isn't good. And then I heard the white noise sound. And then I'm on the galaxy looking at the Milky Way, and I'm on the surface. So I'm by location again. The only way I got back in is I took one finger and I kept poking it into my leg to say, look, I'm not in an accident. So-and-so, this is one pill. I'm going to beat this. This is ridiculous. So it took everything just to do that, to kind of poke me back into my body. So the after effects, and this is where we can get into also question and answer. I know a lot about a lot of these topics, but I've had experiences with ghosts and angels and demons. When I was a little kid, I saw ghosts. I'm like, I knew, because they were people and they were asking me questions. I'm like, I can't help you. I'm a kid. I'm sorry. So I saw that. I used to also see these black humanoid tadpole looking things crawling up my wall. It was awful. They were humanoid. They were solid. They're black, really black, red eyes and sharp teeth. And and so I began to learn how to pray very early. And that would be the only thing that would get rid of them. And I think I was just singing dimensions. And I also think they were trying to intimidate me. And, right, that does not work with me. I will open a can and whoop ass Jesus any day. That does not work with me. So I'm a child of God. So no on that. So anyway, the ghost I could not help. That was a little bit confusing. I had no one to talk to about this time, about all this going on. I know that I had angels around me, and we all do. And that's what's really important. That later on, I got really disillusioned. I owned an ad agency, 27 years, won a lot of awards. And then I was already kind of burnt out. I love the creativity, but then it became more client maintenance and then collection. And I'm like, this sort of sucks. And then we had the recession. So everything stopped. The first thing people do is cut what? Marketing. So I tried to bring it back. I ended up closing my office. And that was traumatic, but healthy at the same time. And I was closing that chapter, which I didn't realize. Those skills I use now, promoting myself or other people or guests. So that's good. I didn't lose the skills. I use them all the time. But now it's for myself and spirituality, which is more rewarding. But then I got into the mediumship because I knew this was always there and it was starting to come out more later in life. And I do think you need life experience to really be able to assist people and be spiritually mature. So that's when I started studying 8 years with the British style of mediumship. And I learned there are different levels, lower levels, and there's a hierarchy of spirit. And then you get higher up to Jesus and then his helpers, angels and people that have been holy people that help him out. So I've had a lot of people that are alive come through because, one way to look at it, when we come into this world, right, we're a baby and then we're a very young child. Well, we're going to be closer to what? The other side. As we get older, every day we get older, including myself, we're closer to the other side. So it becomes natural. People start seeing things as they're, when they're young, the kids say these things and a lot of times parents blow it off. And as you get older, so our consciousness continues. I do want to talk about real quick the Jesus I saw in person in the flesh. Didn't expect that. And that was July 18, 2018. And my husband and I were going to a Hall & Oates concert. And it was a beautiful summer day. It was sunny. It doesn't get dark till like 9 p.m. So it's now like 6:15. Charlotte, North Carolina, the way it's set up, it's a lot of one-way streets downtown. So if you miss your turn, you're kind of screwed. You got to go all the way back around town and do it all again. So he's looking to the left for parking. I'm looking to the right. We're looking for cheap parking because parking's like $25. So we're seeing, do we see anything for 10 or 15? So that's where my mind is. And I remember that day I had a long sundress on with mandalas, those God mandalas, whatever you call that. But it's kind of interesting. I had that. And I remember specifically that day, wearing that. But we're looking for parking places, and out of the blue, I yell like Tourette's, my Lord, like, don't know why I did it. I yell, my Lord. And then I see a teeny little figure in the distance, and my heart knew, like it knew that it was, but it was Jesus, but I couldn't believe it. So I'm seeing this little figure in the distance. This whole thing lasted 3 or 4 minutes, which really is a long time. And so as we're getting closer, because we're moving slow, and I'm seeing him, and then we're getting closer, this is how he looks. He's olive skin. He has these eyes that are strange. I think they're not like regular eyes because they're like blue, green. I don't know. They're just like, they change. They're just not like normal eyes. Anyway, he had long dark hair, but highlights like he had been outside. But his hair looked really bouncy, like he just shampooed and washed it. And it was below his shoulders. He had on a white tunic with a little collar here, but it looked modern. And it was a white linen tunic with pockets. So he didn't look like a hippie. He looked very clean cut. And then he had on khakis, but they were brown green. And then he had sandals on, but not Jesus sandals like hippies. He had just 2 straps that matched the pants, and his feet looked really great. So as I got closer, I'm thinking we have a lot of movie people here, a lot of people like filming, like the Hunger Games, different ones. So I thought maybe he's on the set because he looks kind of perfect. He looks like a model. And then I thought, well, maybe he's one of those metrosexuals and he's all dressed up and he likes to be particular. He looked very tidy, and he had the little, go-to. Everything looked really pristine. And I'm looking for jewelry. I'm looking for markings. I'm looking for anything. I'm looking for tattoos. As I get closer to him, I've gone through all this stuff in my head. I feel like I'm going crazy. As I get closer to him, I lean behind the seat. Like I go behind, like I have a long dress on, thank goodness, but I go behind the seat where my husband's driving. I'm gawking. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to gawk. I'm gawking at this person. A normal person would have laughed or would have gone, why are you doing that? Or why are you doing that? And I look at his face, and it was the face of purity and pure love. And it was like he saw me and saw through me. All I know is I had this reaction. I was hysterically laughing and crying. I was so euphorically happy. The cherry on top of this, I didn't know what to do with that for a few months. Okay. So come November, I'm doing the Ions in Charlotte. I had that chapter 5 years, and then the COVID happened. And then now I have the Seeking Heaven channel, but that's what I was doing. And so I had a group at a restaurant, and we had 2 new ladies. We had the regular crew, and then we had 2 new ladies, and I had never met them. And one of the guys, Mark, said, hey, you should meet Dottie because she loves Jesus like you. I was like, oh, okay. She goes, yeah. She was really kind of quiet, really nun-like, which I don't think I'm not like. Jesus loves everybody, but she was you could have that way about her. And she said, yes, I don't talk about it a lot publicly. She's kind of shy. She said, can you show me? She came out of town from, of all places, Hickory, which is where I was born, Hickory, North Carolina, which is about an hour and 15 minutes, 30 minutes away. So she drove to this Ion Charlotte meeting. So she said, do you know where there's a coat check? And I said, yeah, I'll take you to it. So I took it to hang her coat up. She goes, I had a vision of a woman that saw Jesus in the middle of the road in the grass, and she was euphorically happy. That was you, wasn't it? I went, yes. She said, Jesus told me to come today to tell you that was real. I was like, OMG. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'd never seen her before. And she brought a friend along because she didn't like to drive alone. And so I saw her one other time. It was in the spring, and she brought me a bag of religious trinkets like crosses and different things. that were blessed. And she goes, Jesus told me to bring you this. And I was like, I don't know why, but he said you would. I said, I do. And I used to do these stage things for the Southern Women Show, mediumship, and I'd talk about my near-death experiences and give examples that our loved ones are close. And then people will just come over to me, start crying, or they need a healing, or they need, I mean, it was like a revival. I mean, it's just the way it turned out. I didn't mean for it to be that way, but they'd come over and they would be oppressed in some way. And I'd pray for them. And then I give them like these little trinkets. They could take it home and put it under their pillow and make them feel good. So I knew what that was for. So that was amazing experience. Why did he show up to me? I don't know. He was solid. He was not see-through. He was 100% solid. So what happened with that, how that ended, is I tapped my husband. I said, look, I hit him on the back, look. And then the minute, and I went, look, and turned, he was gone. Now, no one can move that fast. No one that fast, but he showed up for a reason. I think if he's Jesus, you could say, well, maybe because he loves me. You know, he loves everybody, but you know, he loves people. Maybe that's why. Maybe I was open to it. And maybe I needed the encouragement to go through forward in life, because we know we're living through so much duality and speaking of wars and this and that. Maybe I needed the encouragement because I do speak out publicly, and maybe I can't answer that. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm grateful. I don't know if that'll ever happen again. It was incredible. I know he's real. After that, I created Christ Academy. I love this little site. And I just put all these things in my testimony about him and who I thought he was and messages he's given me. And after that, I will say 2 years later, he told me in March 2020 to start carrying his messages. I told him no twice. So he told me March 19th, March 20th. I went, no. He gave me a day in between. He came back the 21st. I'm like, oh, okay. He said, what are you worried about? I said, I'm worried about what people will think. He says, are you worried about what they'll think or what I'll think? I said, no, I'm more interested in what you think. And so I did it. And that was March 22nd, my birthday. And I remember we had like 75 people on there, and I did 15 of those. And then I got taken down on Facebook because I was posting these things. It's crazy. And then, which I got backed up because a couple years later, because I got a new computer. Anyway, and I'm not a big fan of Facebook because of that and censorship. But anyhow, it's practical though, because I get to meet people. So it's a shame. Anyhow, it was July 2020. That was March. He said, start the Seeking Heaven channel. He actually told me the name is, and he said, and he later, 2 years later, he told me what that meant. So see, the King, heaven, he avines. See the King, and avines mean one that descends from high above to below. See the King as he descends from high to below. And he said, I want all religions. I want everybody. Of course he wants everybody. He's Jesus. You know, he's not going to leave everybody out. You know, he wants the heathens. He wants everybody, New Agers, Christians, non-Christians, atheists. I mean, you know, he wants everybody. So I was like, well, I don't know. He said, well, because of my personality and I'm kind of eclectic, he said, you can do that. I'm like, I don't know. I'll try. I don't know how it's working, but everybody seems to, that I've had on like guests, get along, but he wants to bring people together. Then he started bringing me Mother Mary. She started coming through in readings. Then I got Yogananda. Then George Harrison has come to me a few times. Really cool stories. Saint Ignatius, didn't know who he was. But he looked like this guy, and he was I said Spanish or something, but he was walking around with a donkey and he talked in parables. This guy's come through when I did a live reading. He's a Ramanaju. I didn't even know who he was. And I described him. He wore an orange color. He had a bowl that was sacred, that was brass, and he gave a message to this Hindu guy who was reading his book. But he didn't believe in several gods. He believed in the one God. So I was like, oh, I like this guy. And then Sai Baba's come through to someone, and he came through and talked about ashes in the hand, and that's his thing. Multiple times had Einstein come through. In the book Masters of Reality by Mark Ferrantino, who's a client and now a really good friend, he came through 6 years ago, 7, and gave him the finished acceleration formula. His book, that he finished the Einstein's theory. And then later on, Tesla came through and then helped me tell him he went to one of my shows and I was in a trance for an hour while my cousin worked the booth. It's crowded and I'm like in a trance. And I remember he asked me, he had all these pages typed out scientific. I said, oh my gosh, let me just sit here and close my eyes. He asked me, how are stars formed? And I told him, like, I didn't even do good in science, okay? Or math. I did good more in art or history or English. And I told him, and that's all I remember, but I told him how to build a Stargate. And he put that, and he did the scientific stuff and put that in there. So we have access to these people, and they're watching us now. They're a part of us. So I've had 400 hours of past life regression, and I've seen a lot of stuff. Didn't plan to see, especially life on other planets. They're real. We've been that. We've been a lot of things. I've seen past life as an Essene oracle, and the Essenes were the ones that were the prepared the Messiah to come in, Jesus to come in. And they had a whole community and how they worked together. Most of them were oracles, and they all would get information. I won't say simultaneously, but something like that. Oh, it's also an Atlantean high priestess, which I created Stargate technology, which I explained in a portal to Ascension. I've done lots of talks for them, how that worked. Like, you know, where's this information coming from and how we use the elements. And then I also remember being in Lemuria, an angelic teacher. So one of the most interesting things, and it maybe everyone could kind of question themselves, you know, who are you really, is I had this, when I had the Irons chapter, right before the COVID happened, Dr. Linda Botman came to town and she said, well, can I talk for your group? I said, well, I already have someone. But I ended up talking to the person, said, can we move you next month? And it worked out because she doesn't live in Charlotte. She was traveling. She used to live in Charlotte. And I said, okay. And her thing, she's got several books out, but she studied with Dr. Michael Newton, who does regression, past life regression. And her thing is, and I'm not saying it's true or not true, but her thing is either you're human, interplanetary, you've been on other planets, or you're angelic origin. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. But I ended up doing a session while she was in town. She had one slot open. I said, I'll take it. Okay. And we did a regression. I saw where I was a reptilian leader over this planet, and I'm on this hovering city. And I'm explaining to people I was part of the, I was a ambassador for the Galactic Federation. I had a friend who was a Palladian. He was talking about brotherly love and helping other planets. And it came to my attention, there was a planet that was dying because they didn't have food, and we had the technology to grow food very fast. So I was trying to plead to everybody how we need to be more than just conquerors, but loving and help other planets and help this one planet in need. And it created a civil war. Later, I found out through Craig Campoboso, who's written the Intergalactic Species Almanac and UFO Hotspots. He's been on my channel a lot. Really super nice guy. And he also does Hollywood's casting, like for Dune and all that. It's really cool. But he's only an angel could do that. So anyway, we went further in my in-between life, and I was an angelic starseed. I was a seraphim, and I came here. I've been in multiple lives. No wonder these bodies are tough. But there's a lot of near-death experiencers that tell me they also remember that. Now I know who they are. I say, Angel, how do you know that? And you think, well, if there's darkness here in this world, wouldn't God work through people? And wouldn't he work in this way? So I've been told the people like me or have the essence of, I don't really understand it all. Okay. The essence of, like seraphim, essence of. So that's what Jesus told me. I'm like, okay, I don't really know what that is, but okay, I'm totally imperfect, but okay. So anyhow, this came up, and Jesus is the commander of all the angels, and there is an order to things. And so now I can recognize it in other people. It's really cool. So with the past life, I've seen other planets I've been in, such as Arcturus, Sirius, Orion, Lyra. Sometimes I just know things. And I had accidental DNA activation, and that's basically, we have strands in our DNA that are dormant. I thought I was getting some kind of meditation healing with some lady in South Africa, a Palladian lady. And what happened was, I said, this is very relaxing. After that, when we did 4 more, each time I did those, and I saw was this being here, a blue, white, on Sirius A, is that glowed the room blue. And it was a golden day, but the source was me. It was really cool. And since I've glowed. Don't ask me how. Well, I guess we have bioluminescence side that there's things that we haven't tapped into. So I do have these memories now that's coming through. I've had Commander Astor of the Galactic Federation come through, Metatron, Michael, the Sirens, oops. And you know, this is relatively new to me, the past maybe 4 years. And then what happened after that activation, I actually physically started seeing UFOs. And my husband, who's very normal, he saw them too. And there was one was Sunday, August 15th. And we were on our way to Asheville for a weekend with our 2 dogs. And we saw a fleet pretty close next to our car. What do you do with that? I'd never seen that, but we knew what it was. It wasn't a plane. And he goes, look at that. And I'm going, oh, wow, that's interesting. Like it was normal. I'm like, yeah, look at that. And he goes, look at that. And on my side was a big red, like this lava ball. And Craig Campabasso said that this is what because he's a MUFON person too. He said that this is what they look like. But it followed us about 7 minutes and I talked to them. And then afterwards, it was 2 months later, I saw a mothership in the backyard. I was getting a pizza. This is crazy. My story. I was getting a pizza, bringing it home, and I thought it was a helicopter in the backyard. Like, oh gosh, maybe they're looking for somebody. And so I'm pulling in. I have a long driveway, pulling in, and I stopped the car, and I'm going. I couldn't process what I was looking at. It was like Close Encounters like that, but longer. But it was a miniature model in the back, and I went and I looked at it. I called my husband on my car speakerphone, and I said, get out here, honey. We've got a big ass mothership. That's what I said. He comes running out there and then it goes and it sucks back. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, to get physical evidential proof, but they know I like evidence. So after which I started drawing all these different codes after my first one in Asheville. And I found out they're Syrian. That was the last place I remember being besides Earth. And this is Dr. Stephen Greer's work, which is interesting. Dr. Stephen Greer saw his UFOs initially in Asheville and Charlotte. So you don't have to go to Arizona to see these things. They're pretty much so everywhere. So I want to talk about on the astral plane, what I've learned. Life on Earth is an agreed upon structure held together through thought energy forms. Our thoughts manifest into reality through spoken words and our intention. The spirits are us. We are the soul. The body's optional. You're still thinking without it. Spirits were human. Upon physical death, they become limitless beyond time and space. In heaven, there is no time. There is only moments of now. Eternity in heaven is a state of beingness. There's just no decay. Angelic and higher level spirits know our thoughts and who we are. Of course, they're here to help. Life goes on. In heaven, they create, play, and learn. There are schools in heaven. You get to do stuff. You get to paint, you get to learn horseback. Whatever you didn't get to do here, you get to do there. And some people sign up to assist us here and help. God created many other worldly dimensions and astral planes. Upon death, people go to where their mindset is. Like attracts like. That's why we want to make sure that we keep positive people around us. I know you hear that all the time, but it's so true. It's very important to protect that and have those boundaries. Spirits place a greater value upon life's simple memories. I get that all the time in readings, that the father mentions when they're a little girl and stroking their hair and how soft, and now they're grown, just the little memories that are gone. They're here and then they're gone. That is what makes us human. It's those little things. We underestimate the impact that we have on other people's life. Most people do. They're, for me, I'm not good enough. I'm not this and that. And to me, that's not God. God is not a place of judgment. It's unconditional love. And it's not to make you, beat you down. That's not divine love. So this book that everyone's seen forever that I'm supposed to put out, it literally is half written. The reason I haven't finished things is because I feel it's important to me to put, not in a triggering way, to put in a gentle way. Why did I, about the abuse and what that means and how to not only forgive the person, but be at a place you can be in the same room and feel pity and love them. And I, talked to both my stepdad's dad. I did help him out and talk to him. And some people say, why? Because I'm not a mean person. My mother knew, found out not too long ago, she knew. I've forgiven her. She's not going to be in this world forever. It's the only mother I have. Do I like that? No. But this is in the past. We do live forever. If we expect grace, we need to give grace. So in the foreword of the book, I have a channel message from Jesus. For it is not heaven or earth that divides us, but the intolerances we have for each other. For love is always tolerant, kind, and looks for the greater outcome for all concerned. After all is said and done, life is everlasting. God is, you are, I am. We are connected to something greater than just ourselves. It's not just about you. Life is more than segments of particular moments in time, but combined, simultaneous actions occurring without time and limits to work for the greater good of God's will. For his will is always perfect. Jesus, does he not have a silver tongue? Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up on my thing. I have several things are free. How to connect to the divine. That's free. It's about an hour long. Very good. And then I have this 30-minute meditation, this Christ light. This is the light. Actually doing the meditation. It's free. You just need to register to get it. And I don't send out a lot of mailings, so don't worry about that. Probably need to send out more. But anyway, but I do have classes and other things. Some are free, some are not. But this is really good. You'll get high. I always say there's no high like the most high, but you literally will connect to that like NDE experience and Jesus experience, because it's not just a meditation. I actually try to walk you through what I went through so you get to feel it too. And then this is my Southern Belle medium if someone ever wants a private session. And I do want to mention, today I was in the bathroom. Spirit loves to talk to me in the bathroom. Those of you, many of you are retired or with INS or friends of INS and do a lot of charity work and so forth. If you let me know, and I'll have my email here, on a 30-minute session, I will give you $100 off. That's a lot, but I'm good at what I do, and I do it work with Christ, and I do, it's beautiful. It gives me a lot of information. And then the Seeking Heaven channel, which I've had down below. This is, I think it's fun. And I have people like Dick on and lots of other people interesting with experiences so we can learn from them. And then finally, we're at the question and answer time. And I did want to mention, here's my email, assistant@southernbellemedium.com. Is when it comes through, I know there's questions or concerns. So that's always good. I also get a copy of that. So I wanted to leave it with that. And also wanted to remind you all these things that I can go over. What is evidential mediumship? What's it like being a medium? What's it like in the spirit world? How does psychic knowing come through? How to improve your psychic knowing? Your anything that you have, I've got basically can cover. So, we can get into any kind of questions that you have. I'm pretty much so an open book. And I thank you for your time.
All right, we want to get into the gallery so that we can see anybody that wants to ask a question. All you have to do is unmute, wave your hand, and we'll hear your question. Anybody here have a question or a comment? Here we have a question. Carrie has a question. You want to, I'll repeat it if you want to, or you could come up here and, how about if I put the camera on you? Okay. See here, where is Carrie? I'm not. Okay, I'm not at the right camera. Let's get the right camera going. Yeah, I see that. How do we do this now? Here we go. Video.
No, it's not plugged in, Vic.
Okay, how did that happen?
I don't know, but it's on that before.
There's
Okay.
everybody. Hi. Oh, look how cute they are. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. Goodness, look at him back there. You were so kind to me when I was there last time and showed me around. It's such a memory I'll always hold dear.
Well, I was just wondering when you were describing, when you went to the concert and you saw Jesus in the pinpoint, and then you described him as being wearing the nice outfit and everything, and he was all solid form. Where did you see him exactly? Was he still floating in the sky? It was in the car or standing on, you were driving? I mean.
He was at first when I said, my Lord, I don't know, it just kind of shouted out. I don't know why. Like I was thinking about a parking place. He was, you know how you have a two-way street and you have that medium where the grass is? He was way down in the middle of the grass. So as we got closer, he was standing in the middle where there's grass. And I wonder if that's metaphoric too, like in the middle of the road. You know what I mean? Like he could have showed up in my bathroom. Why did he? Right? You know, but he was solid. That's why I couldn't believe it, because he was solid. I can't answer you why, or look, I checked him out. I was studying him. I was just eyeballing him. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm not looking away. But he was solid. He didn't look white. He didn't look black. He looked like probably someone that was from there, but honestly, he could probably appear any way he wanted to. You know what I mean? Because he's Jesus. But if he appeared as someone else, I wouldn't know who he was. You know. But interesting, he wore the same outfit with Sharon Milliman, who's also a multiple near-death experiencer and has seen Jesus, wore the same outfit. So we just did an interview on Love Covered podcast together, and we were laughing because like it's the same outfit. He wore the same modern outfit with her.
His personal taste, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, I guess if we were in spacesuits, maybe he would too. I just, you know, he likes to get along with everybody. He's very charismatic and charming. Think about it. During his time, he could talk to anybody. So, I mean, you got to have a big personality.
Yeah.
George Harrison sometimes come through with him. I feel like they're brotherly, but he's quiet, kind of quiet. But Jesus isn't. Jesus is very talkative. He loves talking to people. I don't know if that answered your question. Yeah, he was in the grass and I could see the grass curling over his toes. Like it was real. Like it was crazy. Like he was totally solid. Like that's why I thought he's solid. He's real. He's obviously some model or something because he looked too perfect. Do you know what I mean by too perfect? You ever look at someone, they look too perfect. You're like, you want to mess their hair up. They just look so perfect. He looked perfect. I don't know how else to say that. Like a model, like he had stylists on him doing stuff.
Right. Other questions or comments? Linda, may I put the camera on you? Hey,
Hi.
Hey, Linda.
Hi. You mentioned other planets that we've lived on. Are there civilizations there now? Are there?
Yes, most of them are very far away. They are, but they're more, you know, you've got I guess I should mention that. So there's aliens or ETs, like we would know the Greys or the reptilians. Most are not really that great because they have an agenda like the Greys with experimentation because supposedly have a dying race, but they have this hive-like mentality, not exactly great. I've actually known near-death experiencers. There's quite a few near-death experiences that have contact experience. Matter of fact, I should mention, I'm case number 17 in PMH Atwater's new book, Aliens and Near-Death Experiences. And so people used to tell me in the Seeking Heaven channel secretly, oh yeah, I've had experience. I will say that one of the people, I can't say who it is because they're not public, they called out to Jesus and after and got rid of the whole gray incident with the abduction. That's not good. But the ones I'm talking about, ultra dimensionals, they are higher level, almost like angelics. And so we would perceive them if we saw them like light beings or angelic or bright lights because our vibration is so low here. They're in a higher dimensional level. So their terrain and things necessarily don't look like ours. Some can, but there's others that have like pink skies and they just look different than us. But we, I believe after a lot of study that we are seated by them. God's still in control. Ask Jesus about that. He goes, yeah, he's in charge of all the solar systems. because I believe, not only the Messiah, but he is who he says he is, but he is like a man God. And he controls, he knows about the other planets too. So, just like people here, we have good people and bad people. Same thing with other planets, but the majority of it is good and loving, and they can't imagine violence or war. They can't imagine that. So I think that's propaganda that we've received. But yes, I have seen being on lots of different planets, and a lot of us may not have the, if that comes out, we don't know what to do with that. But to me, how exciting it is to know that we are such an eternal spiritual being, that we've had multiple lives on different planets. Plus, my belief is that I'm here right now. I really am. So are you. But I'm also, because we're so big and we're just a portion of us here, I'm also operating in multiverses and on different planets. And I'm also a part of me's in heaven. That's big. And so the good news there is we're much bigger than we know. How exciting. I always say the most exciting journey you'll take is you. The fear that we have is not real. It's the more things that I open up, I bring Jesus with me everywhere, so I'm never worried. But the more things that open up, I have to laugh. I'm like, really? We're going here. Okay, now I'm seeing freaking UFOs. I have to laugh about it. I mean, who gets a pizza and sees a miniature mothership in their backyard? I mean, I look at experience as joyful. And I don't always understand it at the time, and I have to let it unfold. So I'm not sure, Lynn, if I answered your question.
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
All right, who will be next? Dawn.
Wondering if you could explain the difference between God and Jesus? You know, what's the difference between both of them?
Oh, wow. Thanks for the difficult question there. It's interesting because I was eating breakfast beforehand with my husband, and I was asked to write a book with a foundation on God. And I told my husband today, just this morning, I said, I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question. And, but if I had to answer that question, and we evolve, right? So where I am right now, let's look at the opposite of that real quick, just for a minute. So there's this priest, and I can't remember his name, but there's a priest he's on Instagram or YouTube. He was the one who got stabbed in the eye, and he's very famous. He has my Catholic friend sends me his stuff. Anyhow, he was talking about the beast, talking about the opposite side. The beast, the Antichrist, is not a person. Now, maybe it is too, but it's not a person, but it's a system of enslavement that controls men. And I went, oh, that makes sense. So we think in singularity. So let's think about God, right? So God is in us. We are a part of God. We are that spark of God. But God is also a system. He has foot soldiers here in heaven. God is a presence. It's a being. It's a unity consciousness of love. Jesus, what I believe, because I only can say what I can believe to this point anyway, is that Jesus came from that realm and came to a place with war and violence and knew what his fate was in a body to be able to show people that, to give them hope. I personally want to add to that what I personally think on that. He also, what I feel came down is people say he died because he loved us. Okay. Well, yeah. But I think that once we say, Jesus, I need you, or here, he knows that he doesn't need a lot. Okay. You create a covenant with him. So you're under his protection. So anything dark or satanic, it's out there. I don't believe in it, but some people do out there. But you have that covenant, right? So you're his. So I just mentioned his name. Some people like, oh, well, I don't know if Jesus is real or not. I'll tell you, demons are. I've done deliverances, and demons know that he's real. So they don't like that name. So you create a covenant. So you're protected under you have a special seal under him. So I think it's a little bit more than, I'm actually getting kind of high. So that's a yes from my angelic team, that there's a seal placed on you of a covenant of protection. And so, because it's free, it's available. So I think it's more than that. I think it's multi-pronged why he came here, but looking at why he would, I mean, can you imagine? Now, when you're going to go to a place, I mean, it's that he was going to be tortured. I mean, that's amazing. He is to me a portion and a facet of God, whatever that God consciousness is. We're part of it too, see? And I think that's what he wanted us to do, is to tap into that inner divinity. So it's multiple things. It's not just a person thing. It's just like the guy was explaining in the Antichrist, not a person. It's a system that controls of many people that buy into that are like that. Just like there's many people on God's team, it's a consciousness of divinity. So I feel like that feels more right. It's bigger. It's bigger than just a soul thing, although we know it when we feel it, just like we know when we feel love. Boy, you had to ask the God question. So what do you think? That's my take on it from right now. It's just so much bigger.
Right, Chuck has a question. Can you unmute, Chuck?
Yes. Tamara,
Where are you? I can't see. Oh,
can you see
where's
I'm
Chuck?
on
I
Zoom?
see it. I see an ear. Is that your ear, Chuck?
I don't know. I'm in the center of my screen.
Okay, I don't know. But
What's that?
oh, there's Chuck. I see him. Okay, wait, hold
Okay.
on. Let me grab Chuck over here. I can pin him, and here, add pin. There you go.
Okay. Tamara, that's been the most wonderful presentation I think I've ever heard. I'm an internist. Jesus spoke to me when I was a teenager and asked if I would come and work with him. So I've spent my life trying to figure out what that meant. I wanted to become a physician. I went in the Peace Corps and was a caseworker, and then I've worked 40 years. When I retired, I went to seminary, got my Master's of Divinity, and resonated very much with Jesus. And then coordinated the Williamsburg Ions group for several years, and
Okay.
have gotten into something called A Course in Miracles. And I'm
Yeah.
curious as to your understanding or reaction to that. I don't have I can't visualize the spiritual realm, but I know the spirits are all around me. But the Course in Miracles is Jesus teaching us love and forgiveness, and I'm getting ready to start a group. So I'm in two other groups, a Williamsburg group and a
Oh.
Richmond group, studying A Course in Miracles. I've been doing it for about 10 years. But it's opened in many ways the realms that you're talking about, that and the near-death experiences. So.
That's so wonderful for you to be doing that. Yeah, Williamsburg's not far from Richmond. I used to do a lot of one of my best audience, the best people in the whole world were the Williamsburg Richmond audiences. I got to tell you a really funny story, Chuck. Okay, y'all are going to enjoy this. Okay, this is about ghosts, but it's funny. Everybody thinks ghosts is scary. A lot of times they're just kind of confused or lost, really. But aren't people confused and lost in life? So I'm doing a show at the Southern Women's Show in Richmond, which they're the sweetest people there, so down to earth. And I remember the first time I did it, this is right before COVID. I did Richmond 2 or 3 years, along with other Southern cities. But we'd have like 35,000 people on a weekend. It's like a chick shopping thing. I mean, guys would come because there's free food and stuff, but it was during the day, and so forth. I think it was like 10 to 7. Anyhow, I'm on stage I do a couple, 2-3 times a day, a medium demonstration, and then I do some readings at my booth. So I'm on stage and I go, oh my gosh, I was trying to be cool, but I was like, oh, what I could see behind the audience chairs there were ghosts. They look like that commercial you see on TV where like spirit and ghost. It's kind of funny, but they were gray looking because they're etheric body. They're in a lower etheric body. So they were gray looking, but the guy had on, the little pointed hats or whatever it is, little pointed hat, little patriot hat. And then he had knickers and a white shirt and something there. And then the woman had like a little bonnet on. She had a bucket, like she was carrying water. And they were watching the high tone, your family spirit people, because they're much higher tone because it crossed over. And they're like really beautiful and fast and just full of love. Come on the stage, and they were looking at the other spirit people and they were staring. So what I did, I was like, how am I going to do this? This is so strange. I was like, I get the oddest situations. I do. It's funny. And so I do more than most mediums. And so I was like, okay, who's been to Williamsburg lately? And somebody goes, I said, okay, so remember the candle section where they're making the candles and you're very fascinated with history? And then they go, yeah. I said, well, someone really appreciated that. And they went home with you and they've been at your house, just kind of hanging out. And I said, they're not bad, but I don't think you want them in your home. I said, they've been there about a week. I said, when'd you go? She goes, about a week ago. I said, yeah, they like you. Would you like me to send them on? And she goes, yes. Well, I didn't cross them over, didn't not enough time and all that. That would have been kind of complicated. And they have free will. So I just said, I addressed them and they were shocked. I said, give me a second. And I said, hello, you're not where you belong. You are out of where you are. You need to go back home. And I visualized their little place where they were. And they went, okay. And then they left. I mean, it wasn't that difficult, but I thought that was that was funny. Yeah, followed the lady home because they liked her so much because she was talking about how great what they did was. And they said, yeah, we think so too. And so they took an interest. And this can happen. I think there's spirits everywhere. But when I go places like Charleston or Savannah or Williamsburg, what I do, I go, hello, everybody. Your place is beautiful. I'm just here to observe, and I don't want any issues. I don't want to bother you. I just want to say thank you for letting me be here as a guest, and you have a lovely home. And I have had no problems. Wherever I go, this is historical. Right. That's how you handle it. It's respect. So did you have a question in particular? I mean, you've done so much
Yes, I
yourself.
wanted to know your reaction to A Course in Miracles.
It's channeled, and I think that some of the channeled information is accurate, and I think it does help people get. It's a way to get people closer to Jesus, and it's also, I feel that I've seen it in readings with people that some people are traumatized by their religion growing up. I didn't really have that, but some people have, and I'm like, don't be mad at Jesus for the nuns or the whoever they are, the priest or the pastor. Don't, that's not his fault. So let's separate Jesus out of that because he's something else. And then, King James, the more I find about that, I'm like, oh gosh, things have been changed. And that was, control, and the Romans, they got rid of a lot of these scene information. So if you go to the Jesus parts, it's pretty consistent. It's pretty consistent, and he comes through to me consistently. I will say that when he came to me of March 19th, 2020, remember the whole 2 days I said no, and then finally I felt guilty and I said yes. I thought I couldn't stand it if I said no a third time. He would give me, it didn't happen. By the third time he started doing it, and let's just sit in a quiet place. I'll dictate to you. And then from there, and all the Jesus Speaks is on the Academy of Divine, Christ Academy of Love.com, all of them. Anyway, he said, I'll give it to you, and you just relax. You're worrying yourself too much over this. I said, okay. And so I did that. And at the end, he would go, 1 Peter so-and-so 12. I'm like, okay, I don't know. All right, I write it down. And he gave me about 3 or 4 scripture. I'm like, I didn't know what it was. I would go back later and read it, and it was exactly what he channeled. So that was evidence, because see, they know I'm hard-headed and I need evidence, so that I know when anything that I give, whether it's channeling, conscious channeling, evidential mediumship, anything, people need just a little something to know it's real, because I don't know why we need that. But he did. He gave that. And one time he gave it toward the end, because there was 15 of those. Of course, I still have channeling on my Seeking Heaven channel. But he gave one, and I was reading afterwards. It was like 6 things he gave. It was substantiated what he said. I have never experienced this. I can't really explain it, but I started shaking and crying, and it was it was wild. It was the presence of God, and it was a very odd feeling because it was powerful, almost fearful, but not in a scary demonic way, because that nobody likes that. When you get that heavy feeling, you're like, ooh, got to get out of here. It wasn't that. It was like, oh, the presence was so powerful that it made my body, it was like seizing, like I was like had a seizure, and I was like, oh, and I kept saying, it's God, it's God, it's God. So, we can't even experience God fully in these forms because it's too much, and, and I have to, sometimes I laugh and I'm like, gosh, don't you just love picking the most imperfect people for things? But I think that if you come as a little child and you surrender your heart, and I think we should have that attitude with everything, even the whole thing with aliens. I asked Jesus about everything. What about that? Is that real? He told me 4.5 years ago about the reptilians. I was like, they're real. This is horrible. And he goes, yeah, I know about it. I'm on it. Don't worry about it. He gave me all this rundown. He even talked about this missing children. He tells me stuff. He tells me things all the time. And he says, I'm in control. I know what's going on. He doesn't let anything truly happen unless it's supposed to. But he told me that he did tell me, I don't know if y'all want to hear this prophecy. He did say something. Do you want to hear that? Prophecy? Yes, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. Now look, that doesn't mean I understand. I'll get pieces, and he didn't always give me the whole picture because it's not always my business. But he did say there would be, I'm going to say it is, he said it. Don't know what it means. So question mark. He said, he told me in April, and he's told me multiple times, mid-September, specifically September 17th, there would be the beginning of a false flag. And he said, it's going to start with fear. And he says, you need to calm your emotions. You need to focus on my face. You need to be in peace and not be pulled into the narrative. It's not as it appears. So maybe so I don't know what that is, but we'll know it when it happens. So I think that's really good advice, is to, to not be caught up in, worldly things, but stay close to our divine nature and be in a state of peace and love with one another. But that's what he told me. So I don't know what it is either. So I'm not supposed to be told everything too.
Did you call it the false flag?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He said it will be a false flag, and it will be the start. And he said it's supposed to, everybody knows what it is. It's a goal to control and enslave and blah, blah, blah. But what's happened is, he told me a while back, he said that people are waking up, and I was like, how much longer? He said, they're still waking up. He said they need to own their rights and know that it's basically God-given. They don't need permission from anyone to be happy, and they're still waking up to that. And I was like, okay, so, but we all elected to be here now so we can shine for God. And I do believe that, he did tell me this. He said, imagine yourself in a little boat on a river. Okay. And then out to the side, he said, you're going to see stuff. I don't know. It looked like riots, fires, just chaos, right? He said, you're going down that little boat and you're just observing. You can send it love, but you're just observing. You don't participate in it. And he said, you're just observing. And so he said, I want you to be calm like that river. And he said, whatever it takes for you to be in that state. And so, you think about times in the Bible or fleeing Egypt. Imagine the people, they're probably nervous wreck, right? They probably had stomach problems, upset, all the physical symptoms of anxiety. He's saying, don't. That is not as it seems it is. And so I trust him at his word, at everything he says, especially if he repeatedly tells me something. So if he says, don't be upset, and something's not as it seems, I don't think he wants me to know, because I'd probably freak out. I'll go, oh my gosh. So he's just saying, it's okay. I got this.
She has a question.
All right, we have a question. I put the camera on you. Let's see. We can,
So much, yeah. what do you hear, what God or?
Can you,
Jesus-
can you move forward so we could hear you better?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, thank you so much, thank you for your sharing, what God, what does God or Jesus mean to you? Thank you, I like that a lot. And also, so in your opinion, Jesus doesn't equate God, right? Jesus is not God. This, I think that depends on everybody entitled for their opinion or how they feel.
Mhm.
But yeah, but I just wanted to share facts, share some facts. Nowhere in the Bible says Jesus is God, right? It's just,
It's
and
true.
that's right. And Jesus, especially Jesus, never say he is God. And according to the history, religion history or encyclopedia, okay, and Jesus, many people think, Jesus is God. I should consider what his a lot of miracles. So it's just people consider he's God, but either Jesus himself or the Bible didn't say that. And also for the term Trinity, the term does not exist in the does not in the Bible at all. I don't know if I'm very clear about that. Trinity, even the root trin. This is just Latin or Jewish. So this is the pagan kind of a teaching. It's from the things, So, but how do you feel that do people need to consider Jesus is God? Is that so I just wonder for those people, I say, if Jesus is just the Son and not the God, and do you think Jesus is not great enough, or if God is doesn't equate Jesus, then then God is not great enough. But in your speech that I heard about, my Lord, although the Lord can mean both God and
Mhm.
men are teachers, but in the Bible, it for me tends to means more teacher rather than God. So many people grew up or learn or brainwashed that Jesus is God, or they have no doubt. So if people tell them, because we only say Jehovah God, we never say Jesus God, right? My Lord Jesus. Nobody say Jesus God. Only say Jehovah God. So that's why. So do you think that if people think Jesus is not God, they are very disappointed or even think it insult? What's your opinion on that?
Well, to me, when I said my Lord, that was like it wasn't like thought and I said it. It just popped out of my mouth. And he is my Lord. I respect him. It's like it's a title,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
like my husband might be Mr. Richardson, right? It's a sign of respect. As far as like I said with God, what I feel like is that he came from those higher realms as in like in the Essenes, as I recall, which I've spoken quite about that a lot. I also spoke about it on David Icke's channel of all things. They asked me to speak there. That was very unusual. The reptile guy who did all those years of studying for that. Anyway, but I talked about the Essenes. We knew the Messiah was coming. There was a Messiah to teach us something that came from these God higher realms. To me, I look at him as an intercessory, our basically our legal spiritual guardian. He's like our counsel, he's our attorney. He's our spiritual attorney. He's helps us because God is so big. It's such a big topic, right? It's like a beingness of it's so big. It's not a single entity. We can't even wrap our heads around it. We're part of that. That I think he made it easier to connect with one person. Now I will tell you, look, like those people I showed you. I have Ramanaju, Sai Baba. I got Yogananda. I've never studied these other people, but yet they come through and tell me who they are. I'm like, oh, who knew? I didn't know about Tesla. I said, Tesla, I'm sorry, I didn't study you much in school. He comes through all the time. So he has other people on his team. He has other holy people. It makes sense, right? All these holy people, saints, who knows, Joan of Arc, all these people, you know, he works with people. Obviously, they're in these higher realms because they sacrificed. That's kind of what it is. They sacrifice for humanity, their spiritual nature. But I think he is a mediary to God, because you'll hear a lot of people near-death experiences, you know, they may go God, but it's hard to grasp. But Jesus was a person. So it's easier to say, you know, you want to say Yeshua, you can do that. He knows who he is. Okay, I know Jesus Christ is the title. I get it. You know, it's not his actual name. He knows all that. But when you put that intention there, he is like your spiritual legal guardian. Oh, got it. Got it. Hey, back off. Everybody back off. I got it. We're going to give safe passage to heaven. I got it. No worries. Angels line up. Got it. So I think he's the mediator to God in the divine realms. And I think he chose to do that for people. And you see people that have had near-death experiences that are all different religions, and they go, Jesus showed up. Probably the same way I go, there's this guy here. It sounds like romaine noodles. And he looks like this, and he goes, I'm not stopping him, which he sounds like a really cool guy because he believed in the one God. Very controversial. He wrote in the, what is it, Bhagavad Gita, that book. But Jesus is, to me, that is he was a person. He has a personality. And it's not sad. He's like very upbeat. Because think about it, to go talk to anyone in crowds, you gotta have a great personality. And he's got a great personality, kind of like he came through. He comes through a lot of people, like with Chuck, and he'll say, I'd like to go into business with you. He told me that with the channel. He said, well, I said, this is a lot of work. You know, I had to learn editing. I didn't know. I mean, none of this was easy. And he said he wants to go into business with people. He does that reason. He wants to go into business and do some kind of gardening where you do it for plants for hospice. And she said, yeah, we've been thinking about that. I said, well, Jesus wants to go into business with you. He does this. He's very personable. So I think that's our connection. But don't think there are others that are on his team helping. He's got a very big team. And some have been human and some have not. Like Saint Germain, you know, he not human, but he is part of that team in the etheric world. But he's, I believe, the mediator. And you know, tomato. I mean, it's all about God. We all go there, whatever you think. You could be the biggest atheist in the world. I'm like, yeah, you'll find out. I don't know if that answered that, but we're these big, boy, y'all got some deep questions today, don't you? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I couldn't agree with your insight more. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other questions here in the room? Comments? Question on Zoom? Dawn.
You know, when Mary, the mother of Jesus, appeared at various places, she gave some prophecies in the future where there would be a big conversion of the earth, you know, towards spirituality. You know. Have you got any information about that?
Okay, now say that. I'm sorry, it was a little muffled. Can you state that again?
Let me repeat it. Do you have any information regarding Mary's predictions about conversions of large numbers of people on the earth?
I've had Mary come through. It's mainly I talk directly to Jesus, but Mary has come through. I mean, but you're seeing it because we're also got evidence. What are those people that were in, oh heck, Islam that, what was it, like 300 men started having visions and dreams of Jesus and they converted? I mean, that's kind of a miracle. So you are seeing that. I think that what I'm getting back to the God Jesus equation, and Mary too. Mary is the Holy Mother. I mean, how she was picked is fascinating with the Essenes. There were several girls, and angel came to her, and it came to the others in the group, and they said it's her. So they kept her unspoiled. I mean, you know, I mean, they kept her where she's pure. And so they knew, because they were all in that God vibe. So everybody's kind of getting similar information. So Mary's very special. So is Mary Magdalene, you know, that all this was picked out ahead of time. But in terms of conversions, what I'm seeing, what I feel is that there are people that want to make this Jesus being your legal spiritual assistant That's what he is. Like you mention him, you're good. And seriously, I mean, if like even Howard Storm's experience where he was in that darker place and called him and he shows up. I mean, he does. It's quick. I've been in some hairy situations. He's right there. I think they make it too hard. I think they want to overanalyze and look at all the scripture and look at all the stuff and look at all the things. And I think it has to do with this. You need to follow your heart. What does your heart say? Not what people have told you. And who do you connect to? I can tell you for me that as I went through my 20s, I partied and all that, probably into my 30s. But I didn't have much of a childhood, so not making excuses, but it was fun for a while. And then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But when I really connected with Jesus in a really close way, it changed me. I didn't want to be with the same people. I didn't want to do the same things. I didn't want to watch the same things. He is a specialist of the heart. He goes in and he is a master clay maker, and he will go in and change you. You don't even know what's happening. All you know is you're changing and you're going, wow, I don't like this person. They're very negative, maybe I should, wish them well, but maybe I shouldn't be around people like that. It starts changing you. So he's done that with me, and then he continues to do that. And I don't know where exactly our relationship is going, except he's with me and I'm committed to him and I love him. And hopefully he'll see me through this world until it's time for me to cross over. But I feel happy that I have someone like him this with me, that I consider him my best friend. He's also my redeemer. He's my protector. He's my teacher. And you can say savior. Some people don't like that word. I can't imagine life without him. But it's not because of the biblical stuff. It's because I met him. It's, because of experience and because I know him, not because of something I read. And now if I read something, I'll go, oh, that sounds like him. He should come through as you think he should be. If it's some, like you would imagine, like he would say things like that pretty thing he said at the end of the foreword. I don't talk like that. He talks real pretty.
Any
May
other
I say something?
online? Anybody on Zoom will have a
Yeah.
comment or question.
Dick, I have something I'd like to say. From A Course in Miracles, Jesus channeled that he is not on the level of God where he says you don't want to hold him in awe. He's more like an older brother at a very high spiritual level who's trying to bring us along to come into his presence. He
Beautiful.
said, he's quoted as saying, I and the Father are one, but he said there's much more to that statement than what it appears, because the Father is really much higher. But he's there like an older brother to try to lead us, to help us to grow and move toward the Father.
That's beautiful. That's why I think people don't understand when I say he's my best friend, other than my husband, because it's so personal. I mean, he doesn't want to go, oh, I love you. He's okay. You don't really need to do all that. He does want us to show gratitude to God, and he calls it Father God. Father to me is not really a male thing. It's more of saying like protector, overseer. It's more of a title kind of thing again, but it's not male or female. We know that. Okay. It's kind of a lot to say, Mother, Father, God. I mean, it's just kind of to work it in all the time. Jesus says, like the Lord's Prayer. He says, Our Father. That's just to show respect. So I love the images of him praying at the rock to the Father, because he's just trying to show us the way how to get back home. But honestly, we've lived forever. It's not like we don't know this. We are on autopilot. We get confused in this crazy world, but we are so relieved when it is our time, and just think we all get to be together. And I told Jesus, when it's my time, I want to have a disco party in heaven. I want Donna Summer, because we know she's there. I want the Bee Gees. They're about all there. And I said, Prince would be good too. And I want all my friends, and I want you to dance. And he's like, and you know what he did? He winked at me and he goes, I can arrange that. Because there should be joy, right? And dancing.
Carrie has a question.
That's great. I love that. I just wanted to ask you more about your services that you offer, and if it's something that would help me, like I have some decisions to make with a business relationship and trying to navigate. You know, I see some people have their, what I call foibles. But, you know, I've been trained in the system of wisdom known as Walahuna, which comes from ancient Hawaii. And it's basically, you know, we're all divine beings, but we come here to dance with what the ancient Hawaiians called Malu, dark energies, the life-taking spirits that we identify with wherever we're unconscious. But then we wake up and we take our power back, and then we realize that all of the divine qualities are who we really are, right? So I try to focus on that. But then sometimes in my real life situation, there's other things going on. And I just feel like sometimes I have a hard time really just, you know, zooming into what it is I'm supposed to be doing, because I have some major decisions to make. You know what I mean?
What? I don't know how Dick's time is. This is what I was going to say to you all, because I feel so much love in the room. If you want me to, if I can go wee, I'll take a couple psychic questions. But I know he has some food for you. So Dick, where are you? And then I can answer that, because I can answer that. I don't want to leave you hanging, because I can, you know, I'm always connected. I always, you know, I'm just kind of this way. I never knew better to be normal. So, Dick, what's the time? Do you want to, I don't mind doing a few psychic questions, but I do have to go to the bathroom. And I know you have some food.
Just a moment. Let me intervene here now. Initially we planned for another session this afternoon from 1 to 3 for persons to have sessions of reading with Tamara. And I don't know if anybody registered for that, and I don't know if we planned for that, but we could still do that. I did bring some salad and some cheese and some soup, and we could light lunch, and we could come back and do something. What would you like to see happen, Tamara?
Oh, you're asking me. Well, I told Jesus in the bathroom, I'm like, look, I could go either way. I'm just happy to be here. But if people need healings and that means physical, emotional, whatever. And honestly, when I do things, sometimes that happens. I mean, because I'm working with God, so I don't know. I'm really just kind of following along. So I said, if you need me to be of service, I will. We had that registration to sign up for to do that. We can still do that. We don't have to take a full hour. I just need to take a break. We could even do 90 minutes, but I can't. This is a good way to get stuff without paying a lot of money. I mean, being honest, I think it's $30. My regular 30 minutes is $325, but y'all get $100 off. You just need to let me know, and I'll send you a coupon. So you can do it that way, because some stuff is personal. That's why people do it, because they don't want everybody knowing. But I'm polite, so if I say something, it's going to be like polite the way I say it. I'm not going to like spill the beans on anybody. You know what I mean? Courtesy and all that. But ask your people, what do they want to do? If they want to do this, I'm happy to do it.
How about if it's about 12:17 right now. Could we have a 15-minute break? And then anybody who's interested could come back and make arrangements for a reading. Is that all right?
Well, we were going to do the medium psychic demonstration. We could do that. Let me give you two options here. I can answer that quick question, or I can go more in depth. You know, what happens is I go into a deeper trance. So I'm not just sitting here talking like Tamara. So I go into a different mode. You know, it's like shifting gears up. And so if you want to do that, we can. I can get a snack, go to the bathroom. We could do 15 minutes, and then we could do 90 minutes. I don't know if we have enough people interested, or I could just answer this question. I'm totally yours.
All right. I think we could.
It's up to you.
Could we do both? One way to do this is we could convene for 15 minutes, grab a snack, come back. You could talk to anybody that's interested in talking, but they could also make appointments with you for personal readings that would be private.
Okay, so how long? Okay, so we're not going to do the medium demonstration? Because the medium
not-
demonstration, I could do the psychic stuff and have your loved ones come through and tell you who's with you around you now, what they think about stuff, what they want to say, what's going to help in your life. It's pretty in depth.
Okay, we want to do that.
That's a yes. It's $30 is a deal. I usually do 50 when I do these things, but it's a deal versus, what I
So,
normally.
Does that mean that everybody who participates needs to contribute $30?
We're sharing it with Ions, but yeah, so it's, I'm not, neither one of us are getting wealthy on this, but it's just a little love flow.
But it is a $30 commitment, right?
So how are we going to do it? Do you want to send them to my school or do you want to take up the money there on your end? I don't care. Whatever is easiest.
I think it'd be easier just to receive the cash here and then forward it
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, or a check or something, or you handle that. And then that way we can go more in depth. It's going to be a little bit deeper if you want to do that. How many people do you have a show of hands that might be interested to make it?
Yeah, I got 4 people here who want to stay for that. They have 5 one on Zoom and 4 here in person. So that's a $30 commitment, right? Okay.
So we've got how many?
5.
Okay, and then one there. So if we do this, then I'll have you responsible for the monies.
Right.
And then we'll just stay on this. Is that cool? And then while you're doing this, get you a snack, make sure you get plenty of water. I need to as well. Water is a conduit to spirit. And just think in your heart what it is that's bothering you. Write it down, like 5 questions that's bothering you. Don't tell me. I like to go, I'm concerned about career, where it's going. That's good enough. Okay. Okay, we'll go that route. Or I'd like to hear from people that have crossed over or whatever. That's good enough. So don't tell me detail, but write down what you want to know. That way, as I'm reading it, you're putting it out in your intentions to God, the universe, and then hopefully I should pick up on that. And if not, you have your questions there. So be thinking about that. How long are we talking about? Do you want to do, is 15 minutes enough time for everybody?
I think that's good. And
Okay, so we'll start a 1:45.
quarter to
and
1.
then-
So we have about,
And then we'll a 1:45, and then we'll go to 2:30.
we have about,
Everybody's tired. Their butts are tired sitting there.
we'll be back in about 25 minutes at 1:45.
A 1:45. Okay, that sounds good. And I'm just going to turn this here, but I'm going to leave it on. Does that
Okay.
sound good? And get your questions ready, psychic or medium, and this will be fun. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. See you in 15 minutes.
All right.